Welcome to this edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Consumer Protections Commissioner Michelle Seagull. Commissioner Seagull, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
Welcome, Commissioner. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
And Commissioner, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about the department and exactly what you guys do.
Well, the Department of Consumer Protection keeps very busy. So, our overarching goal is to really create a fair marketplace for businesses and consumers. And we do that in a variety of different ways and by regulating a number of different markets. So, one of the markets we regulate is through our Liquor Control Division. So, they regulate all people, all businesses that are involved in the liquor industry. So this is the distributors, the manufacturers, and then of course also the locations, the package stores, the restaurants, the bars where people buy their drinks. We also regulate the pharmaceutical marketplace. We have a drug control division and they regulate the pharmacies and pharmacists in the state. In addition, they are involved in Connecticut's medical marijuana program. So that's been around for a number of years now, and it's regulated through the Department of Consumer Protection's Drug Control Division. And right now it's helping probably over 40,000 patients in the state. Another important area that we regulate is through our gaming division. We regulate the different forms of legal gaming in the state. So this includes the lottery, it includes we have a role in the slot machines at the casinos, and we have a role with off-track betting. And so that's another big piece of what we do. Other areas we regulate include foods and standards. And so food is what it sounds like. We will license places like bakeries. We're also in grocery stores or other restaurants to make sure they're following the laws to protect the food supply. And our standards division keeps track of weights and measures in the state so that you can feel confident whether it's a gallon of gasoline that you're buying is in fact a gallon, and that other weighing devices in the state, which show up in a lot of different places, are accurate and are treating you fairly. Another big area that DCP is involved in is we do a lot of licensing. And so we license a number of different businesses and a number of different occupations and professions. There's certainly the ones we talked about. We license anybody who's involved in the pharmaceutical industry or in the liquor industry. We give out liquor permits, for example, for restaurants, for other places serving liquor. Pharmacists are licensed by us, but we do a bunch of other licensing as well. So a number of different occupations, accountants, real estate salespeople, for example, are all licensed by us, in addition to engineers, architects, plumbers, electricians. There's a whole host. Over 200,000 people or businesses have some sort of license or permit or registration from the Department of Consumer Protection. Another important role for us, of course, is not just regulating the businesses, but it's the consumer side. And we do a lot there to make sure that consumers are being treated fairly in the marketplace. So certainly through our regulations and our licensing, we make sure that the businesses are all acting properly, and that's a really important part of protecting consumers. But we also do investigations. So if we get a complaint because someone was treated unfairly by a business, we will investigate that and kind of look into the situation to see, does the consumer have a point? Does the business owe them money or needs to fix the problem? We do that both in the areas where we regulate. So if somebody comes to us, home improvement contractors is another example of an area that we regulate and we give out registrations. So if we get a complaint because somebody's home improvement work was not done properly, we would investigate it. And we have a complaint center that gets thousands of calls, emails, and now chat messages every year and helps consumers and tries to resolve those issues. So that's in a nutshell a lot of the stuff that we're doing at the Department of Consumer Protection. I know it was a mouthful.
That's okay. That's okay. You guys are actually a very busy organization.
Yeah. We keep very busy because we touch on so much of what's going on out in the marketplace, and we have some general just unfair trade practice authority. So we also just take complaints based on that. So certainly during the pandemic, a number of people were concerned about price gouging or had concerns that contracts they had maybe with a health club or someone else wasn't being honored.
Right, right. And how long have you been commissioner?
Probably about 3 years, and before that, I was the deputy commissioner. So I've been with the agency for over 9 years now.
Wow. Like it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you like it?
Oh yeah, it's a
Yeah.
terrific agency. We have a great team there. A lot of really smart, hardworking people. So that's terrific to work with so many dedicated people. And then just the work we do is really important, and we know we're making a difference. Um, Whether it's the thousands of complaints we help mediate, the medical marijuana patients, or making sure businesses aren't serving intoxicated or underage people, ensuring integrity of gaming. Just across the board, we're doing a lot just to help keep people safe, and that makes it really meaningful to just be able to go into work, do that every day with a great team of people.
Absolutely. Now, how has the agency adapted since the pandemic?
Well, it's been quite an adjustment. Unfortunately, we were already working hard to move a lot of our work online, and so this certainly expedited that. So almost any license you would need with the department, you can get online, and certainly any renewal. So that's been a big piece of what we do, and we've really accelerated that and made even more and more services available online. So even normal transactions you may want to do with the agency. If you have a license and need to change your address, for example, that's something you can do. So we've been working on that. We've also adjusted by creating new ways for people to interact with us virtually. So, for example, shortly before the pandemic, we began experimenting with, and we've really expanded the use of a chat function. So rather than calling the agency or even trying to stop in and talk to someone, you can go online and chat with us, whether it's our complaint center or one of our other divisions. So that's a couple of the things we've been doing, but a big piece of it is just making a lot of our functions so that all these people who need to get a license or need to make changes to their license can do it 24 hours a day from the safety of their home.
Now when we first began the program, there was a little bit of technical difficulty, but I'm gonna ask the first question again. So for people that don't know, what is the what does the Department of Consumer Protection do?
Well, I won't repeat the whole answer in case
That's
people.
okay.
But we overall we create a safe and fair marketplace, and that's our overarching mission. Is we want both consumers and businesses to have a safe, fair place where they can interact and conduct business. Because what's best for consumers is really being able to have confidence that they can go out into the market, buy the goods and services they need, and feel confident in doing that. And that's also best for our businesses as well. So there's a lot of rules around how different businesses need to behave. There's a number of licenses that we issue to make sure people who are doing certain work, like electricians, plumbers, engineers, um, have the training and the competency to do that work, so people can trust that when they hire a licensed person to come do work at their house or at their business, that that person is competent to do that.
Now, what type of now how is well, we talked about how the agency adapted during the pandemic. What kind of COVID-19 related scams does the department deal with?
Well, there's been a number as the kind of pandemic has dragged on. So early on we were dealing with price gouging was a big source of complaints we were receiving. So we were talking a lot about that. But more recently, we're really worried about, and unfortunately, what scammers do is they take advantage of current events and they will, whatever's on people's minds. So we've heard about, for example, fake testing sites that have sprung up
Hmm.
around the state. And we've been trying to deal with that because it is important. We want people getting tested. It's important for the state's mission of controlling this pandemic. But you need people to know that it's a legitimate site that they're going for. So we want to make sure people know things like, a legitimate site's not going to ask you for things like your birth date or social security number, that sort of thing. Another one is contact tracing. Again, we really want to encourage people to cooperate with contact tracing efforts because that's, again, how we help control the pandemic. But unfortunately, some scammers are taking advantage of that. And so we want to remind people, a legitimate contact tracer, they're not going to ask you for money. They're not going to ask you for your social security number. Those types of things are red flags that you're not dealing with a legitimate person, because especially money, you shouldn't be paying to cooperate in these efforts. And now with the vaccine coming out, we want to make sure people, get vaccinated when it's their turn, and whatever category they're in is up for a vaccine. But at the same time, people should know, again, you can't pay to get yourself on a priority list. So there's things like that where you may have scammers out there give people special access or special consideration for money. And those are scams. That's not how the state is doing this. So those are some of the big ones we're hearing about. And then there's some of the typical ones. So charity scams are something to always be on the lookout for, especially now around the holidays or when there's a lot of people soliciting money to help because of COVID. In addition, work from home scams are something to be cognizant of, just with so many people either out of work or having reduced hours. Those can certainly proliferate.
Now, what is a work from home scam?
So an example of that's where somebody sort of promises you a job, but you have to pay them money up front. So maybe you have to, pay to get certain materials. You have to do things along those lines. So you should always be careful when you're kind of being handed this or guaranteed a job, but you have to pay them money first. So that's a big red flag. But for everything, whether it's a work from home opportunity, a charity, we always encourage do your homework online. So look up, the business that's offering to hire you, or look up, the charity that solicited you, or the business you're thinking of working with, and see if there's complaints against them. Or you could maybe even look up their name with the word scam and see if you get any hits, and that will be an indication of what other people's experience has been.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we always encourage people, you can do a lot of research on your own, and you always kind of, in a lot of these scams, they're tricking you out of money, they're tricking you out of information, but you control that. So take a little time. If you want to give to a charity, do some research, find the charity that supports the cause you believe in, and where your research indicates they're using their money responsibly, and then you can make a donation directly to them. You never want to feel pressured because somebody called you or sent you an email that you have to give money right away. Unfortunately, the needs out there are ongoing, so there's always opportunities to do that. Likewise, if you want to work with a business, there's lots of businesses out there. You're better off taking a day or two, doing some research, getting referrals, calling around, making sure you're working with somebody who you can have total confidence in, and not just somebody who maybe knocked on your door.
Exactly. Now, how can somebody know if something is a scam?
So there's a couple of really common elements to every scam, and that's why it's really important. So that's a great question to know the key elements to a scam. And those are: one, the person will be reaching out to you. So that's already, you need to be on guard. When the initial contact, you didn't initiate. So that's the first thing. And they may call you, they may email you. It may be a pop-up in Facebook or on your computer or some other social media. It could be somebody knocking on your door. But the point is, you didn't initiate the contact. The second thing is, they're of course going to pretend to be legitimate. They're going to claim to be from the IRS, from your utility company, your bank, someone who you would have reason to trust. But you have to remember, you don't know who they are other than taking their word for it. And that's where you want to be cautious. It's not like you called your bank and looked at the number on your bill and know you're reaching the right person. You're in a situation where they've reached out to you. So it's really important to verify that they are who they say they are. And so if you are concerned, you can certainly hear what they have to say, but then hang up and do your research. So, a common one is often these utility scams. And this is where somebody will call up and claim you're overdue on your, electric bill, and they're going to be shutting off power in the next hour unless you call up and give them money right away. Well, that's not how the utility companies work. So call your real utility company, look at your bill, see what the legitimate number is, or go online to find it and see, are you actually behind in your payments? So that's the second thing, is you don't know who the person is who's reached out to you. The third thing to look out for is you're going to be pressured to act quickly, pressured to not think about it, not do this research, not talk to friends and family. And they'll do that in one of two ways. Sometimes, like the utility scams, they'll threaten that something really bad is going to happen. Your power will be shut off, or the IRS scam, they threaten you that you're going to be arrested if you don't follow their instructions. Or they'll threaten that you're going to miss out on a great opportunity. You've just won the lottery, but first you have to pay some upfront taxes, and if you don't do it right away, they're giving your winnings to somebody else. So that's the next sort of sign of a scam. And then finally, it's you need to be really suspicious if somebody insists that you pay in a way where you can't track your money and get it back. A lot of them, they'll ask you to go get a prepaid gift card and then read the number on the back of it. Well, once you've done that, it's the same as just handing somebody cash. There's really no way to undo that transaction.
Now, as far as scammers go, are they actually are they targeting specific groups of people?
They're actually not as much as people think. I know there's generally a sense that, people, if you're older, you're maybe more vulnerable, but actually they can target everybody. Now, it may be different types of scams target different populations, but really nobody should feel that because of their age or because of their gender or their education level, that they're safe. There are a wide variety of scams, and they'll target anybody. And in particular, if you have fallen for one, you certainly need to report it and take steps to minimize the damage. So if you gave, out your credit card number and you realize a few hours later that, oh God, this was probably a scam, I've made a mistake, well, cancel that card. Or if it was your bank account, call your bank, make sure they're on the alert so that you don't do more damage. But also then be even more aware. Often once somebody feels like they've tricked you once, they may come back again and again, or they're, other scammers, word will get out that, they got money from you. So they'll try to do that as well. But about 1 in 10 adults in any given year falls victim to a scam. So certainly don't be embarrassed about it and take some steps to minimize the damage and move on.
Now, as far as what can people do if they're a victim of a scam?
Um, so a number of things. One, again, you want to minimize the damage. So if what you've done is given out personal information or bank account information, you're going to want to cancel those accounts or put a freeze on those accounts, so that they can't, take away more from you. Let local law enforcement know this is a crime for somebody to steal your money or steal your identity that way. You'll want to have that police report on record as well to kind of correct things. In addition, you should keep an eye on your credit report. You can get one free from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies every year. And so sort of make a habit of checking those. And if you see some unusual purchases, or if your credit score suddenly has dropped significantly, you need to be aware. Has somebody opened an account in your name or tried to make a purchase in your name? And so those are good habits to get into. And of course, you can let us know. You can file a complaint with us at dcp.complaints@cd.gov.
And what's that address one more time?
It's DCP, as in
Hmm.
Department of Consumer Protection,
Right.
.complaints ct.gov.
Okay. Okay. And as far as what can people do if they are victims of a scam, and what should they do if they're not victims but become aware of a scam?
Okay, so certainly if you're a victim, again, don't be embarrassed. It happens to the best of people, and take the steps you need to protect your accounts and identity. Let law enforcement know. But sometimes, hopefully you take this advice and you're not victimized, but you're worried. You can tell based on the call or the email you got that this person is probably targeting a lot of people, and you want to protect your friends, your neighbors. So certainly, it's good for people to talk about it. Often just hearing from their peers makes people more aware. But also, let us know. You can email us again at ecp.complaints@ct.gov. And you can certainly let, in the email sort of say, I'm not filing a complaint, but you should be aware this is happening. You can tell the Better Business Bureau as well. They do a nice job of tracking these. And what we do is collectively, if we're starting to see a pattern, we've got a number of people reporting a certain scam, particularly if it's targeting certain areas in Connecticut or certain populations, will sometimes put out a release and, put out a press release to warn people, hey, be on the lookout for this. This is something that's happening out there.
Now, as far as the department goes, let's go back to the we have a little bit more time left. Let's talk about what kind of COVID-19 related scams has the Department of Consumer Protection aware of? What are they monitoring right now?
Um, so the big ones, that we really want to keep an eye out now with the vaccine rolling out are scams related to that. And so want to encourage people when it's your turn. You should certainly plan to get vaccinated, but be careful if somebody's, asking you for money and promising to get you on a priority list if you pay them a certain amount. That's just not how the state's doing it, where the state's prioritizing it and you can't pay to skip the line. So that's certainly something to be aware of. You also shouldn't be providing personal information like that. And maybe when you get in for your appointment, they'll have some specific questions that are normal in a healthcare appointment. But certainly, like over the phone, somebody promising you something, you shouldn't be giving them money, or certainly things like a bank account information, that sort of stuff. We're also want to keep an eye out. There's still a lot of testing going on in contact tracing, and those are really important. We want people cooperating in those efforts, getting the tests, working with contact tracers. But just be aware, again, they're not going to ask you for social security numbers. They're not going to ask you for money. And so you need to be careful if that's happening. And you can actually call 211 if you want to kind of, or visit United Way website, or the state has a great website, ct.coronavirus. I think it's coronavirus.ct.gov. But if you go there, you can get a lot of good information, accurate information about what's going on in the state, and you can also find where legitimate testing sites are.
Obviously, and if people think you've got it, you also want to go out and get tested as well.
Yeah, certainly we want to encourage people to everybody, do your part, whether, try to avoid going out in public if you can, wear your mask, keep your distance. But if you think you're positive, we want you to do what you can to cooperate with the contact tracers to protect other people, and start quarantining yourself and do what you need to do to keep yourself and your community safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Commissioner Seagull, we've got a little bit more time left, but before we say goodnight, what's the website for the department? One more time.
Oh, it's it's DCP. It's ct.gov/DCP.
Okay. Commissioner Michelle Seagull from the Department of Consumer Protection, thanks for coming down. We'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
On behalf of Michelle Seagull, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night, and we'll see you next time.